No pressure that I'm emceeing and Kay McGrath is in the audience, but, do my best. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Jinnabera, the Kabi, and the Yagara people. The Council respectfully acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land, and we pay our deep respects, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And I actually like to go one step further than that when I'm doing an acknowledgement of country, to say that if we went back and had a look at some of the traditions of kinship and connection, that we may go a long way to reconciling some of the disconnects that we see today. So I really warmly welcome any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander faces and voices in the room, and thank everyone for being here today. Well, why are we here? So first bushfires, then COVID, then the ever-important Black Lives Matter protests, and back to COVID, it seems. Since that time, the start of the year, we've also lost 30 women to murder at the hands of their partners or former partners in this country. 30. Most of them didn't even make the news, and if they did, there were fleeting mentions that didn't ruin your dinner plans at all. You see, we're a nation and we need to recognise two distinct things. The first, that this is 100% preventable. Domestic violence is 100% preventable. The second, it takes all of us to unlearn the messages we received about not getting involved, about not sticking our nose in other people's business. And we need to get involved in domestic violence and send messages of help and support to victims, and messages of accountability to perpetrators. So my role here today is to unite all of us, because I know that there is more that unites us than sets us apart. So I want to start by asking you to share with the person next to you what you had for breakfast this morning. And to be honest, I had Coke and chocolate, and Rachel, you would know that is fact. So I want you to turn to the person next to you and tell them what you had for breakfast. Thank you for doing that. Can I ask, did anyone else have Coke and chocolate, or was it just me? Just me. Just me. I do that every day. I actually have Coke and chocolate every day for breakfast, so I've just outed myself. Okay, while we're here and being a little bit uncomfortable, I want you to yell out how old you think I am. For those of you that know, don't say, but just yell it out to me. 21. What else? What do we got? Thank you. Up the back, how old do you think I am? 21. Thank you. What about this table? How old do you think I am? There's a lot of silence in the room. So when were we socially conditioned to not talk about age? Particularly a woman's age. Where did we sign this invisible contract that says you must never speak about it again? And actually, it's a bit shameful once you get past 21. Where did we sign that? Because we think we're really comfortable about having uncomfortable conversations, yet we won't even explore or talk about a woman's age. And if we're not talking about a woman's age, then what else are we not talking about? To me, that's really telling. If we are not talking about a woman's age, what else are we not talking about? Because we didn't all know that we'd been conditioned in that way, and yet when I asked, I actually saw the man up the back quickly get out his phone, like, I don't know, I'm busy right in this moment, right? And everyone else says 21 and we all laugh, but in reality, why isn't that celebrated, and why don't we talk about things like age, and why have we all been conditioned? Why, or do we feel like we can't and it's uncomfortable? I was going to make you turn around to the person next to you and explore your age, but I'll leave it at that uncomfortable kind of tone for now. Turned 40 on the weekend. I did. So why don't we celebrate that, and why is it still taboo? And for me, that's part of the conversation around prevention, but also about responding to domestic violence. It is uncomfortable. Nothing that we do in this space is comfortable. None of the conversations we have today are comfortable, and we need to sit in the uncomfortable space for us to seek the answers and to do the work. So I invite you all to feel uncomfortable today. In your workplace, You may feel that you have domestic violence policies in place, that you've done some training, and you might even have signs up around the place around domestic violence. But what's your culture like? What conversations are being had in your lunchrooms? Are they conversations like, some women make it up, not all men? If it was bad, she would just leave? Because I can guarantee you that you can have every policy in the world in place in your workplace. And if your culture is one where staff don't feel safe and you're not providing that safe workplace, you've got a lot of work to do. And much like fire training, code of conduct, you wouldn't let a small fire smoulder away in the corner or a little bit of racism happen on a Friday. So you need to look at all parts of your workplace and consider whether it's safe, whether it's consistent, and whether every staff member feels valued. I'm going to park that there, and then I'm going to talk about what the council's doing here today. So the Domestic Violence Prevention Council is visiting this region because they want to learn more about what's happening here. They want to raise awareness about the Queensland Government reform to end violence. They want to change attitudes and behaviours, and they want to encourage the community to take part in doing so. I'm so pleased to be partnering with MBRIT. Is that how I pronounce it? MBRIT. And we actually have the CEO of MBRIT, Shane Newcomb, up the back. Is that right? Wave, hello. So thank you very much for supporting us here today. Local government is the custodian of community and therefore critical to working collaboratively with non-government and private sector to change attitudes and behaviour. Also one of the largest employers in the region and keen to model good workplace practice, I'd like to welcome the Mayor, Peter Flannery, to say a few words. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. First, I'd like to start off by acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we meet as well, and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Also, I'd like to acknowledge other cultures as well, because being an Australian, being a multicultural council, country. We have a lot of other elders and acknowledge their members past, present, emerging as well. So I'd like to acknowledge did Di drop in, the minister? She hasn't here yet? Okay. So Di Farmer, I'm sure will be here later on. So I'd like to pass my acknowledgement of her. And the work that Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council, I'd like to acknowledge them, local businesses and community service providers. And the special mention to Department of Premier and Cabinet and Moreton Bay Industry Tourism, we just call it MBRIT, for hosting today's forum. And as we heard before, it's a very important forum that's a focus now on the Moreton Bay region and what we need to do to change the statistics and the issues that are happening within our region. So thank you for choosing our region. Unfortunately, we've got a high statistics, but we're in the position to do something about that. As far as I'm concerned, one person's experienced domestic family violence is one too many. It's simply unacceptable. Today, we have some of the region's largest employers in our region, and I'd like to thank them for coming along today. And we all have a role to play in helping stamp out domestic and family violence. This starts in our own homes, but then extends into our businesses and our workplace. So last year, some of the statistics, the state government did a survey and revealed that almost 60% of respondents identified there were no initiatives in place to address domestic and family violence in their workplace. So we all have an opportunity to change this. Moreton Bay Regional Council employs about 1,900 staff who deliver vital services across our community. So at Council, we've already started this conversation about domestic violence and made it clear we want to take a zero tolerance approach. So we've partnered with Red Rose Foundation to install a dozen red benches across our region to raise awareness on these issues with our community. We've recently appointed a new council officer dedicated to addressing community safety issues, including domestic and family violence. We provide grant funding to assist local support services and initiatives, and we support our staff and their families through free EAP services. So to local employers in this room today, I encourage you to join the fight against domestic violence and family violence in your workplace. And your attendance at this forum is the very first step in that journey. And I thank you for taking that. And on behalf of Council, we want to take that journey with you. So thank you and have a great afternoon.
Research shows that people who have been strangled at least once are 7 times more likely to be murdered by their assailant than those who have not been strangled. Some victims die or have blood clots, strokes or brain damage months down the track. No stranger to this type of violence is our next speaker, local Caboolture resident and CEO of Australia's CEO Challenge, and a good friend of mine, Jackie Lackman. Thanks, Jackie.
Good morning. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Good morning. I am here this morning to speak to you an extremely powerful video and one that hits at the heartstrings. I am here to talk to you today about hope. That this is an issue that is preventable if we all work together. And my story is one of hope because I'm in front of you today. And I'm in front of you today because my workplace helped me get out. And I'd like to share that journey with you and provide you with some confidence that you too can help, that you can do something. I'm from New Zealand, don't hold that against me. I came across the ditch about 14 years ago, having had a career in retail operations. I started in a regional town in New Zealand's north on the dock unloading trucks. And I had a goal to reach head office, so I didn't have to work late nights, weekends and public holidays, and anyone in retail will feel me on that one. Over a career that spanned 10 years, I made it to head office, and I became the first Indigenous woman on the board of Farmers Trading Company, which is a national retail organisation. I was their first National Customer Services Manager, and my boss was Tim Wilson. One day, Tim said to me, "Are you okay?" And this particular day, I wasn't okay. And I knew that the mask that I kept wearing to work every day was slowly coming away, and that I was showing signs that I wasn't okay. This day, I chose to disclose to Tim that I was experiencing domestic and family violence. I did not use that language. I didn't know that that was the type of relationship I was in. Some of the barriers over that 10-year career that stopped me telling anyone: shame, embarrassment, the feeling that if anyone knew, that they would judge me, that I would lose the respect of my peers. You know, and you go through life and all we ever want to do is fit in and be loved and liked. But I wore masks for 10 years and I hid what was happening to me. I didn't feel that I could talk to anyone because our society said you shouldn't. Societal norms need to change. We need to speak up and speak out that this behaviour is not okay. Over a decade ago in my workplace, there was no policy. There was no talk about domestic and family violence or any issues that happened behind closed doors or personally, because society said you go to work, you do your job, and you go home. And we don't want to know about your personal problems. It's not a workplace issue. I can tell you, boy, have we come a long way to the point that I am standing in front of you today, and that I've had the opportunity to lead an organisation to educate and raise awareness and support employers and team members to be able to recognise, respond and refer to those who are impacted. Tim demonstrated empathy, he demonstrated non-judgment, and he did that because he cared. And it actually wasn't hard to do. He genuinely wanted to know if he could help. And when we look at our roles as leaders with employees and direct reports, there's an opportunity for us to notice that someone's not okay and get past that fear and be courageous to say, are you okay? At a minimum. And the fear that we have as leaders is if I ask you if you're okay and you say you're not, and then you proceed to tell me what's happening for you, and I don't have the answers, and I don't know what to do. So I want to give you some key takeaways today that you can do this. If you are coming from a heart perspective and you genuinely care about somebody and you know that they're not okay, ask the question. Do something. And if they do disclose, here's your takeaway. Just listen. I don't want your advice, and I don't want you to tell me what to do. I want you to believe me that this is happening for me and link me into support services. That's it. It's not hard. You don't have to have the answers. Yes, it's a complex issue. Yes, there is work to do in the workplace to ensure that the framework of support is available and there for everyone. So what did Tim do? Tim linked me into EAP. Some of our businesses in the Moreton Bay region won't have access to EAP. They may not be big enough. There are supports in your community that can help. We do have community organisations external to businesses that are there to support. You just need to find them. And I encourage each and every one of you to research where are those community support centres that could help you help your people. So 10 years in this organisation, I had access to EAP and I didn't ever go to it. Again, that stigma around if I went and saw a counsellor, there must be something wrong with me. Well, there was. I was in an unhealthy relationship and I didn't know it. What I also didn't know was it wasn't my fault and I could get out. So what did my workplace do for me? They asked me if I was okay. They linked me into support services, and they did more than that. They financially supported me to the point where my children and I hopped on the plane and came to Queensland. I then, on the dance floor at the Irish pub, I won't tell you which one here in our lovely region, I got to experience what a healthy relationship looks like. I'm really blessed, and today I am grateful for the family that I have, the husband, the support in my community, that this is a hopeful story that has ended well for me, but so many it doesn't. And you have an opportunity to support someone who may be going through this in your workplace. I now get to lead an organisation where we work with workplaces. We educate, we raise awareness, and we provide leaders with that confidence to be able to do something. I want to thank you for being here today, for listening to my story. We've got a stand over here. Come and chat to me later, can help you out. I want to acknowledge the Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council, who are doing an incredible job. I want to acknowledge Dame Quinton Bryce and the landmark Not Now, Not Ever report, which saw a huge shift in our state to tackling this issue. Thank you.
Wow, Jackie, that was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You are one courageous woman, a warrior woman, and I'm so pleased to share this space with you. One local workplace who continues to challenge the status quo of domestic and family violence is Unity Water. To tell us a little bit more about their journey to be a zero tolerance workplace, please welcome Jana Dorr, Manager Communications and Engagement, and Naomi Locke, People Experience Lead. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jackie. A privilege always to follow you when we have the opportunity to speak. Thank you so much, Mayor Peter Flannery, for inviting us to participate in this conversation, and to the Dfe Prevention Council for bringing this conversation to our region. Unity Water is our local water and sewage provider across the Moreton Bay, Sunshine Coast and Noosa regions. So this is something that's very close to our hearts. Most of our people live and work in the region, and water and sewage is an essential part of every day. So we see ourselves very much as holding a key role from our community perspective, for our customers, and also obviously for our people. John and I are here today to give you a little bit of an overview of our story and our long-term commitment to the prevention of domestic and family violence. We have the privilege of working with a lot of people in this room and are really excited about that ongoing contribution to that bigger conversation. So thank you so much for bringing us all together. I don't want to spend too much time talking about our business or our strategy, but I really want to focus on something that a few of the speakers have really honed in on in the morning this morning. And I think the important part is in our new strategy, our focus right at the heart of this is keeping our communities healthy. And that is based on an organisation that is committed to care. And really importantly, those three groups that we see ourselves as having a responsibility to contribute to. So our customers, we work with over 300,000 customers in our region. Our community across the region, I explained, and our people. We have 650 people who bring themselves to our business every day, not necessarily into our business at the moment, but that we work with and we see ourselves as being responsible for. So, we really try to make sure, particularly with any of our community-based work, that we're considering all of those opportunities. I work in the people experience team, which is very much centred on what we do for our people. So John is going to talk to customers and community, and I'll tell you a little bit about our people journey. I think it's really important to think about what Sian said before. It is really easy, and I think that easy work is absolutely in our policies and our procedures, and to do some training and to feel like we're doing a lot. The really hard work is culture. The really hard work is making sure that our leaders and our people feel empowered to care and empowered to take steps, and really that it's safe to share that at work. So I think, while my list of things that we do organisationally is what you would expect of an organisation that's taking responsibility for the prevention of domestic and family violence, I think, the really hard work is the looking in the mirror work and the work that we do when we're talking to people every day. So we are absolutely on a very big culture journey to make sure that we are continuing to work and build an organisation that is psychologically safe, whether that's from a mental health perspective, whether that's for the prevention of domestic and violence, but it's very much focused on care, so that we know that we care for you and what you need for us is going to come first, and we're going to stop and we're going to support you through that. We have had very strong support from our leadership, which is absolutely imperative in an organisation for a very long time. Our chairman, Jim Sawley, was a massive advocate and brought a lot of work into Australia, and our CEO, George Theo, has been involved with Australia's CEO Challenge for the last 10 years. That makes a massive difference. So I would say to employers, it's very important that these messages are consistent and persistent through your organisation, starting at the top, that our leaders are hearing that they know that continues, and that we're approaching it from lots of different perspectives. So that leadership support, we absolutely make sure that we partner with organisations that know that what we're doing. We know water and sewage. We know that very well. We do that 24/7, and we've been doing that for a very long time. But we need to work with specialists that can help us with that. So very much through the work that we do for our people, our customers and our community, we really try to make sure that we've got strong partnerships. We're a white ribbon accredited organisation, so exciting to see the next evolution of that coming through to hold workplaces accountable. And we do a lot with Australia's CEO Challenge, and our people take so much pride. And I think that that's the really important thing from a cultural perspective, is to hold those things and pull those people out who are really happy to take a lead and run. It absolutely needs people to drive and to continue that passion and commitment. And we are so blessed to have a lot of people in Unity Water that do that. Healthy relationships is our approach to not to mental health, sorry. I look after that too, to the prevention of domestic and family violence. Nicole, who's with Australia's CEO Challenge, was very pivotal in us getting a lot of this work off the ground to start with. And we're very much trying to help people to understand what healthy relationships look like. And when it's not a healthy relationship, what does that look like, and how can we support you? And how can you safely have that conversation? So there's a lot of things on my notes I'm sure I haven't gotten to, but we've only got a couple of minutes. Jana and I are both here, and we would love to talk to you. We would love to learn more with and from and together, and we would really love to continue this conversation. So thanks for inviting us, and I'll hand over to Jana to talk a little bit more about the work they're doing for our customers.
Thanks, Naomi, and also thank you to everyone for having us here today. So our commitment to our people also spills over to our customers and our community. We sound a bit repetitive, don't we? We're good. But after all, many of our people live in our region, and as a business, we know that we can be better together. So when it comes to our customers, we have traditional hardship programs to support the financially vulnerable. However, we've recognised it must extend further to those who are vulnerable in other ways, especially to those who may be experiencing domestic and family violence as a result of financial hardship. So our team on the ground have tools and protocols in place to support and refer customers who may be exposed to DFE, and these tools and protocols ensure that we as a business protect the privacy and safety of these people, that we recognise DFE comes in many forms and many different stages around economic abuse. We acknowledge that our customers are at different stages, and we ensure care at each of those stages. And we recognise the mental health impacts on our customers and also the people that are having conversations with them. So our frontline teams are supported with that discussion as well. Now, during COVID for us, it was pivotal that we responded and transformed our program to how we recognise, respond and refer customers, because we weren't seeing them face to face, and that was a big part for our hardship team to be able to pivot and transform that program. Another way that we have transformed our support and how we are trying to bring DFE prevention and awareness to the table is through our communities program. Our program covers 5 key pillars, DFE prevention being one of them. So since March this year, we have given close to $130,000 to essential community services that were impacted, or the people that they're supported by have been impacted by COVID-19. Now, central to our success for this program, and Naomi touched on it before, is the acknowledgement that we aren't the experts in these fields, but as an essential service provider, we think that we can help groups to get better outcomes for our customers and communities. When it comes to DFE prevention, the ways that we support our community include support for 2 women's refuges. We have a partnership with Uniting Care to help change the behaviours of perpetrators, and we are looking at a longer term partnership with Uniting Care to look at more impactful ways to be able to build that awareness and prevention. And we support a number of groups that assist in therapy for women and children impacted by DFE. Lastly, and this is one big part that Naomi and I and our teams get to work really closely on, is You Volunteer. So that is an internal program that we encourage our people to volunteer to groups and services out in the community that might need help. 4 times a year, we work with a refuge to run a working bee, and that refuge is one of the women's refuges where people have been impacted by DFE. We go out there, we clean the units, we've built sensory gardens and welcoming spaces for our families to be able to provide them with a different experience. Now, I really want to thank Naomi today. We work super close in our business to make sure that customer, community and people are all linked together. If Naomi was doing her work with our people, without the support of us in customer and community, I just don't think that we would have the strength in what we do, and also building the awareness for this important issue. These are some of the partners that we work with, but it's not limited to what we're doing in each of our regions, so across Noosa, Moreton and Sunshine Coast. And if I can nail this, there's a video of just how important and how much support we have for community. Oh, I think I'm going to get this.
White Ribbon is the world's largest movement engaging men and boys to end men's violence against women and girls, promote gender equality, and create new opportunities for men to build positive, healthy, and respectful relationships. In June 2020, White Ribbon Australia was relaunched with new leadership to take it forward to a new agenda. Please welcome longtime social justice advocate and new White Ribbon Executive Director, Brad Chilcott. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Jackie, for that incredible speech earlier, Naomi and Jana as well, and Sean. It's a privilege to be here. I'm up from Adelaide, so that means I'm safe. Really safe. Although the aeroplane was very strange. They, like in the airport, army personnel, police, medical PPE, keeping us all distant. And then as soon as I got on the plane, not a spare seat, crammed in, side by side. But I promise I'm safe. I have the daunting task of relaunching White Ribbon Australia. Many of you would know the background and the unfortunate demise of the previous organisation. Without going into too many details, a lot of people ended up losing respect for the movement, and also a lot of people, and we've heard from some of them already today, put a lot of effort into working with White Ribbon and aligning with that movement to end gender inequality and gendered violence. And so we're really trying to do things different this time around, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did want to share just a couple of the differences in this next chapter to hopefully encourage you to give us another go. And if you're a workplace who was accredited, to continue on that journey with us as well. So firstly, White Ribbon Australia, after it went into liquidation, was purchased by Communicare. And Communicare are an organisation in Perth, Western Australia, with 40 years experience in community services. But most importantly to this work, they have 20 years of experience in women's safety services. They also run men's behaviour change programs and a live-in perpetrator program in Perth, which I believe is the only one of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. But the great thing about that, I think, is that now the link with victims and survivors, with those who work with them, with the men who perpetrate violence, that link is now intrinsic to the new White Ribbon, a direct communications loop that can inform the way that we operate and what we do. So some of the changes that we've made since we launched 3 weeks ago yesterday, we announced that we're closing down the Ambassadors and Advocates program. I don't think I need to go into too many details about why that was problematic, but we're transitioning it to a community partners program. The idea is that instead of it putting a man on a pedestal for not using violence, which should really be entry-level decency, it's about how you can partner with your community to champion what's already going on, to partner with it, to work with and through them, which is a great little phrase Rachel Durden gave me earlier today. Working with and through your local community to collectively work together to end gender inequality and gendered violence. Often in the past, White Ribbon committees or local groups were seen as pretty insular and just working on their own. I was with a bunch of them last night in a great Chinese restaurant here in Brisbane, and many of them had a different practice and were very connected. But across Australia, White Ribbon had been a bit insular and not listening, not learning, not working well with others. And so we're really working on changing that. We're also, the thing that made me want to get involved actually with relaunching White Ribbon, when I used to volunteer for them, we said the pledge, which said stand up, speak out and take action. The action piece was never really clear to me. What was I supposed to do next? After going to a march or a breakfast, putting on a ribbon, what was I supposed to do next? And so throughout all of our programs, we're really trying to build some scaffolding around what the action looks like. Now, the way that this relates to people in the room with me today is you've heard of our workplace accreditation program, and Unity Water workplace accredited, probably some others in the room are too. We did some listening to and learning from organisations we'd worked with in the past, the feedback generally was going through the accreditation process was helpful for the organisation to find gaps in policy and practice, to reveal some challenges in the culture, but they all said working with White Ribbon was terrible. So I'm hoping to change the terrible bit at the end there. And we're trying to make the whole process less bureaucratic, less controlling, and especially more focused on outcomes and real-world change for human beings than about sending us photos of your White Ribbon event or proving that you raised some money for White Ribbon. So we're much more collaborative, much more working alongside workplaces and helping workplaces to, I guess, self-reflect on issues around gender equality, around whether it's a safe workplace, as we've heard a bit today, to disclose, to share your situation, to recognise that sexual harassment should have a zero tolerance policy and is also part of gendered violence, and making sure that the workplace is safe in all of those regards. So I'd love to invite you to get involved with workplace accreditation. There's a little brochure on your table, or you can come and speak to me afterwards. And I'll just finish with one other aspect. There's a whole bunch of things we're changing about the old White Ribbon, but another is the fundraising side of things was quite contentious in many communities. Communities would often raise money in a regional centre or an area like Moreton Bay. Moreton Bay? Yes. I saw the mayor and went, wait, did I get it right? They would raise money hoping that that might make an impact in the local community, and then White Ribbon would come and say, you used our logo, we need some money from you. We're changing that whole dynamic and actually encouraging people. You can run a White Ribbon event and raise money for your local women's safety service or other local projects. But we're also creating a community response fund that corporations or individuals can donate to, and then we'll use that fund to offer grants to local initiatives who want to try a new way of addressing gender inequality and gendered violence in their community and build an evidence base to show that it works, so that you can then take that and seek other funding. So if anyone would like to contribute to our Community Response Fund, that would be great. And if you just want to go on the journey with us, we're in a real phase of listening and learning to everyone. So we'd love to hear your feedback about how we can work together best with you. So thanks for having me, and look forward to meeting you all more.
Thanks, Brad. That's not an easy task to come in, to take over White Ribbon and to do what you're doing, so we really appreciate you being here. We all want to create a Queensland free from domestic and family violence, and to those of us who work in the trenches, we know that it's not something that each of us can just do on our own, that it takes all of us working together. The Honourable Dfe, Minister for Child Safety, Youth, Women, and the Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence, who can't be with us today, reminds us of the importance of working together to see an end to domestic and family violence. And I'm going to share a video from her now, but I did just want to point out that Cynthia Kennedy is in the room, who works with Minister Farmer, and she's happy to speak to anyone who would like to speak to her after this as well. I wanted to finish by saying that I've spent the last 16 years of my career working with prisoners who are convicted of domestic violence and sexual violence in the Queensland Corrective Services. I'm also the chair of the board at Dfe Connect, which is Queensland's largest hotline for women seeking refuge from domestic violence. We also have a sexual assault line and a men's line, and we take on average 120,000 phone calls annually to that service. We can't just keep building prisons and putting prisoners inside them. We can't just keep building refuges and sending women to them. At that point, it's too late. We have created havoc in homes. Homes have been destroyed, and livelihoods and lives have been destroyed. We must work to prevent this. And the prevention is the uncomfortable space. It's like talking about the age. It's each and every one of us having conversations in our homes, in our workplaces, with our friends and families and colleagues to say, what I'm seeing isn't okay, or are you okay, or how can I help? I want to echo the words that Jackie used before, and that is that our main role as effective bystanders is to believe a victim. The cost of not believing could be death, but the cost of believing is nothing. There needs to be no judgment attached to being an effective bystander. It means you show up, you don't give people advice, you show up, you say, I'm here for you, I'm listening, and I'm not going anywhere. It must not have an expiry date. If you want to show up for someone, it doesn't expire. You don't say, you must do this by this date. But I can't stress enough that for me, given the opportunity to work in the space that I do, in the prevention space, I work with an incredible team of researchers at Griffith University in the Violence Research Prevention program. And I get to run a program called MATE that goes out to workplaces, organisations right across Australia and now internationally, having conversations about preventing violence in the first place. We need to look at culture, we need to look at the culture that we all live in, and we all need to take responsibility for what role we play in that. So I wanted to leave you all with a challenge to really think about how you're contributing to the culture around you and what you can be doing in the prevention space. It can be as easy as interrupting a sexist joke, interrupting language that disempowers women, looking at the gender equality or gender pay gap in your organisation, having a look at it from not just from a, that you've got men and women, but from a hierarchical sense. Those types of things all add. We know that the main drivers of violence against women are rigid gender stereotypes and gender inequality. So that is the role that we can play today. It takes a community. We all can do something. Thank you so much for being here. I want to finalise this formal part, but to say that we're all going to share some food, COVID safe, I know. We're running a little bit late. Food's running a little bit late. That's okay. Will it be here in a couple of minutes? Okay, but there will be organisations, so Australia's CEO Challenge, Jackie will be here. I will be here, although I'm not allowed on campus at all, so I don't have a pull-up banner or anything, any materials, but come and chat to me. The Red Rose Foundation, Betty Taylor is here from that foundation. Hairdressers with Heart is here somewhere. Great, over here, and Broken to Brilliant and the Centre Against Domestic Abuse. Please come and seek us out and have some conversations. Also, the members of the council would love to talk to you more about what you're doing in your community and how they can support and help you.